Happy to be joined again today by Philip Dwyer, citizen journalist, and we're going to be chewing the fat today about the legacy of madness that's happening at this time in Citywest Asylum Hub, Asylum Camp, call it whatever you want, in Sagart in Dublin. First of all, I suppose I should say thank you, Philip, for coming on, and welcome back.
Yeah, Rick, thanks for inviting me back on again and watching your stuff. You're doing great work and keep it going. But delighted to be on. Thanks.
Well, likewise, and I've noticed you've been frequenting Citywest over the last month quite a lot, but in particular, you haven't just let it disappear. You haven't just let the stories fade away like many stories are fading away, or the government would hope and pray that they would fade away in the mainstream media. Just for anyone listening from outside of Ireland, last month towards the start of November time, there was an assault carried out, a heinous attack carried out on a young girl in the grounds of Citywest by a man allegedly that was refused asylum, subject to a deportation order, didn't go. He was arrested. He's been held pending a trial happening, and that then sparked up people going to Citywest, protesting about what was happening there. There's been a lot of tension in that area for quite some time. Thousands of people have been bussed into the area, moved into the area in a small village. It's been completely changed beyond recognition. That erupted into turmoil and violence. You were there. You got pepper sprayed along with many other people, beaten down the roads. There was a lot of how would you say, brutality happening over a few nights. That spilled into other parts of Dublin. It's just been non-stop. You went back a few days later, and I suppose that's where I'm going to pick this up, because the last time I spoke to you, you revisited it the next day, just walked around on your own, no protest, no nothing, on what looked like a nice day. The next thing, the An Garda Síochána descended upon you and made a demand that you should surrender your recording device. Give us the lowdown on what the hell happened there.
Yeah, I mean, I went back the next day and I called the video, the day after, the night before, just to see, what the aftermath was like, how the village was, and I was live streaming. And yeah, when I walked down to the entrance of the hotel, we have these steel barriers now that are put across. It's like Long Kesh or some kind of a prison you'd see over in America somewhere. And the next thing, I get surrounded by police. I call them police. I don't like to call them Gardaí anymore, but they surrounded me and asked me for my phone, and because they felt it was something it would be evidence in relation to a van that was after being burned the night before. Now everybody knows what I do is live streaming, so any of that film footage is all live on Twitter or X or whatever. So yeah, they took my stuff. They took a microphone, a gimbal, and what evidence they're going to get from them, I don't know. But it was purely a cynical attack on journalism, really. They know what I do. They know that I call out the wrongdoings that are going on in the country. And they are starting to look, it's probably looking for someone to blame other than themselves, and for the government and the minister and the police commissioner. They want to have a bogeyman that they can blame for the trouble. I know a lady who was wrongfully arrested the night before. She was taken to a police station, and one of the female guards in the police station asked her, did she know me? And she said that I was some awful troublemaker. So whatever way they're being indoctrinated in the police, somebody somewhere is telling them, oh, it's these guys like Philip Dwyer and others, these reporters, they're troublemakers. As if it's our fault that a 10-year-old child was allegedly raped on site, that it's our fault that they're bringing in illegal migrants. We're just telling the story. We're just reporting on it. So this is the society we're living in now. It's quite I did go to the station and I did warn them that it's a serious thing to take the phone of a journalist. There is special, protections there for journalists under European law and Irish law. There's precedents there. So I think they have to have a court order to look into the phone. I still haven't got any of the gear back. So it was kind of shocked in a way that they would go so far. They're that insecure in themselves, and it's a simple thing. I've said it to many guards off camera. It's like, you guys are allowing this to happen by your compliance. You know, you are complicit because you're letting these people come in through the borders, through ports and airports. You're not doing your job under the Constitution, which is your job is to protect our borders and to prevent illegal immigration coming into the country. The laws were set up for a reason. So yeah, I mean, and just on the point of Citywest as well, I think if you could ever get a symbol of how far downhill this country has gone, you know, you could put everything into that week or two into Citywest, that hotel, and Saggart Village. You know, you could cocoon it all together, and as opposed to, like, it exposes our migration problem, it exposes our childcare issues, and it's, you know, how people aren't considered anymore, their opinions, their thoughts. I've recently done an interview. I went back again to Citywest, got some very good interviews with some local people, elderly people, a concerned mother, and they're completely disregarded. So it's a symbol of everything that's wrong in politics as well. You have the likes of Jim O'Callaghan going there with this Brunner guy, this EU migration commissioner. These people, and the cynical way that they removed all these steel barriers to try and make the place look as normal as possible, to try and make it look like some kind of an ideal place, and where this is how we do it here in Ireland, you know. And this total disregard for the mayhem that's occurred there over the past couple of years since it opened, and it's horrendous. Like, so they come along and look at this shiny new hotel that was all cleaned up and made it look as normal as possible. And then they go back and say, this is a prime example of how a DP centre should be operated in Ireland or in Europe. And it's so insulting to the people and the victims of these DP centres, the locals that live beside these DP centres, you know, that they have to deal with the antisocial behaviour. It was last year I went down there just to have a look around with somebody. I walked down I parked up in the village, walked down towards the centre, and on the same side of the road, I mean, this guy was obviously an Arab with a hood up, just marching up towards us. And he literally, we're only there 5 minutes, and he vomits all over the footpath. And he doesn't even stop walking as he's vomiting. And he just wipes his mouth and keeps going. Whatever made him do that, whether he's on drugs or drink or whatever else, this is in the middle of the day on a Sunday afternoon. And that was just my little experience of just spending a couple of minutes there. There's also been lots of drug dens around. I discovered one last year as well in Saggart Village. They were hiding the nearest bit of shrubbery that we can that they can find, that they can hide in and take their drugs. You'll see all the crack pipes, and you'll see all the tin foil lying around the place.
Paraphernalia.
Yeah, and we came across two of these guys, came straight out of the DP centre, trying to shoot up or whatever they were doing. And this is going on a daily basis around the village of Saggart. It's unheard of for the locals. They had a peaceful, lovely village, happy-go-lucky kind of area, and in South County Dublin. And it's like it's turned all their lives upside down now. It's just not the same. And then again, and the village has been populated as well by mostly non-nationals as well, who are supposedly coming here legally as well. But again, they're becoming a minority in that sense also. Never mind the DP Centre, which holds 2,500 people, the largest hotel it was in Ireland. But these cynical politicians coming along and to pretend, you know, and it's all about pretend. They live in this different universe than the rest of us, like that we can see reality with our eyes, but they want to distort this reality and not talk about all the bad things that have happened around these centres, not talk about the undesirables. And the last day I was there, when I was there last week doing them interviews outside the gate, I witnessed with my own eyes guys coming in, foreign men coming in with their big suitcases, been taken in. There's no stopping the influx of people coming in there. They're still taking in unknown, unidentifiable males into that area after a child was allegedly raped at the entrance of it. So, absolutely crazy stuff.
Philip, since all this, the stuff that we're talking about, by the way, as well, is more or less condensed into the last 4 weeks. However, this asylum hub is what it's now being branded as. It was the biggest hotel in Ireland, sitting on about 50 acres of ground, huge conference centre there, massive hotel with bed space for about 2,500 to 3,000 people at least. So it's a humongous, biggest in Ireland hotel in Ireland. The Irish state bought that for They claim 148 million euro, but that's not including uptake or upkeep, etc., etc. They claim it's going to save money over 25 years. But before they started moving Ukrainians into there, predominantly it was Ukrainians in there. Before that, they had commissioned it as a COVID test center and all that sort of business. But since it has been taken over as a asylum hub or a refuge hub for people fleeing from persecution and war, I just want to bring this to people's attention as well. This was sent in to me by one of my listeners, and I believe you've maybe met this lady down in and around the area, Anne Sullivan. So big thanks to Anne. She sent me through incident logs that she had applied for under Freedom of Information requests. So to give people an idea of the scale of this, in the space of 15 months, and this is from Freedom of Information requests, statistics that the government actually hold on record, in the space of 15 months, there was over 1,000 incidents noted, and some of them were redacted because of extra sensitivity or who knows what those incidents were. But over 1,000 incidents were recorded in that one IPAS unit in 15 months. This is something that's being suppressed. This is something that's not being put out there into the public domain. This is a post that Anne had put up on social media directed to the European Commissioner for Immigration, this guy Brunner. She said, Magnus Brunner, we understand you were at Citywest. Are you aware that the centre doesn't have a fire certificate or fire centre? Many of the residents have mental health issues, alcoholism, drug issues. These are the incident logs of crimes committed inside the centre. And then that's just a snapshot of it there. There's obviously page after page after page of that. That's not something that's being talked about either, Philip. And yet, off of the back of that, we have this visit. And here we can see Jim O'Callaghan, the so-called Minister for Justice, who doesn't live too far away from this place, I understand. A man who's very good at telling everyone and the world that, in his opinion, Dublin's getting safer and he would have no problem walking around any part of Dublin there now. He would feel safe. He was hosting this guy, Brunner, the European Commissioner for Migration. He said Ireland is a front runner in terms of their preparation to adopt the EU Asylum Pact, which is something heinous in and of itself. And Citywest is an example of best practice. I can only commend and congratulate, he said today in Dublin. I asked the question, I'll ask you, are there two Citywests, Philip? Are there two Saggart villages? Is there a parallel universe somewhere that another Citywest Asylum Hub exists, and that's where they teleported to for him to come up with this glowing report?
Yeah, there is in Jim O'Callaghan's head, there's another parallel place going on. He's obviously, these people, look, he's sold his soul. The fella on the left there is Jim O'Callaghan. The fella on the right, Jim O'Callaghan, has sold his soul to these people in Europe. I said to one of the ladies I interviewed that these people, what have you got to say to these two guys? That these are probably the people directly responsible for your village being invaded by these people. These, as we can see with the list of 1,000 reports of crimes, basically criminals. And then it shows how the failure of the immigration system, the failure of the asylum system to keep it's completely designed so it'll keep people like that out of the country. But these people are just coming in with no documents, telling you that they're suffering trauma and they're fleeing war. So Jim O'Callaghan is a symbol of the Irish political system, you know, of the gaslighting, of just avoiding anything that's negative that they might be responsible for. At the end of the day, they're taking journalists' equipment, phones off them. They're attacking journalists violently at protests and whatever. They know that they are responsible deep down. They are responsible for the troubles and the strifes that are going on as regards immigration, childcare, children being allegedly raped by foreigners, and they're directly responsible, and they want to put the blame on others, people like myself and the messengers, people like me and you, Rick. So yeah, he's a prime example of it, and I actually regard him as actually more sinister than the likes of Roger O'Gorman and Helen McEntee, because he's more intelligent. He's putting his own spin on things that he's trying to make it look like we're going to make changes here now. You're not going to be able to get citizenship so quickly. It'll take 5 years, and you can't be on social welfare, and we're speeding up the process. Well, the damage is done. You know, they need to have mass deportations, mass remigration if we're going to fix this. They need somebody with the will to do it. But these guys have sold their souls to come up and have the audacity to go to that hotel a couple of weeks later and try and tell somebody that this is a prime example of how to do it. It beggars belief that they are so convinced in their heads that they can tell the public anything they want, and enough people will swallow it and take it on board. And unfortunately, the way we are now, it's improving, but people are going to probably listen to these concessions they're going to make. You know, they're coming along with proposals that we were talking about years ago. You know, they're suddenly now talking about what we've been talking about, which must make them far right, because we were called far right and Nazis and whatever else you want to be called, racist. So now they're coming along and they're kind of acceding to what we were asking for a long time ago, and now it's like people will, unfortunately, the electorate will fall for it again. I fear, you know, I really do fear that they will. All they'll say, oh, he gave these concessions, he's making changes, he's improving things, and really they're not, because there's no point in stopping or having deportation, say, you know, 2 plane loads a month maybe or something, when you have 10 plane loads coming in through the airport, you know, that are going to keep the amount of people coming in, keep the numbers up, and keep the security of our women and children, are putting them in jeopardy, let's call it, and making it worse and worse all the time. But they'll say, oh, we're sending people away, we're sending people back, but in effect it makes no difference. The problem is still happening and it's still continuing.
It's interesting, just some of the stuff you said there about how easy it is to appease the general electorate or the masses out there. You know, throw them a little scrap here, throw them a little bone there, make it look like you're making concessions here, and then all of a sudden people seem to have a short memory. But it is worth noting, I mean, it was bizarre almost, and I know it's from the teeth out, and I know the Irish government's primary concern is to save their own skin first and foremost and line their own pockets first and foremost. But it was bizarre almost to hear the sound bites where Micheál Martin came out and said that maybe 80% of the people seeking asylum were, you know, not doing it legitimately and they were in it for the money. And Simon Harris came out and admitted, yeah, you know, maybe Ireland's is full after all, and we need to be looking at this. And then Jim says, well, we'll make little tweaks here and there. Another thing that came out, and again, it's strange that it's coming out at this time, but again, it's linked in with Citywest. There was a story that came out over the weekend. This was a strange one too. Citywest riots, which is what you were ultimately caught up in and documented, which led to the confiscation of your phone and various other persecutions that are being landed at your doorstep. Citywest riots were not led by the far right, but criminals attracted to such groups. Well, who said that? Philip Dwyer, Rick Munn? No. Apparently this senior SDU Garda boss, Brian Woods, came out and said that the Citywest riots were not led by the far right. Special detective unit monitoring around 10 disparate far right groups. There's an attraction for people with criminal records, the violent disorder that broke out at Citywest and Dublin 2 years ago, the Parnell Street business as well, were not primarily driven by far-right elements, according to a senior Garda. So it's almost like they're seeding other little bits into the public's mind as if to say, well, you know, there's maybe a point. These guys, Dwyer, this guy, Munn, these other guys maybe have a point there, but they're, of course, we're still extremists, you understand, Philip. We're still at the far end of the spectrum, but it's bizarre to see Micheál, Simon Harris and this senior Garda guy sort of inching their way over towards us in terms of their narrative. So again, this has all happened in the space of the last month. And when you went back again, and I want to touch on this in a second, I want to say this as well in case I forget. I don't want to leave it to the very end, but Philip has a new YouTube channel up. Okay. And if you check the post section of my channel, just go in the post tab. I've put a link up to a video that he uploaded the other day. There's a link through to his channel on there. Go on there, subscribe to it. And I'm not going to say any more than he will be uploading a video. By the time you watch this one today, Tuesday, he will have uploaded an exclusive shocker of an interview with somebody connected to what's been going on in Citywest over the last month. So I don't want to steal any of his thunder, but suffice to say, subscribe to the channel and check it out later on this afternoon for an exclusive, a scoop from Philip with somebody that's connected to what's been going on in Citywest. I promise you, you'll be stunned at this one. I haven't seen it yet, but based on what he's told me, it's a bit of a stunner. So that's an aside. Check that one out. Philip, also, I'm just bringing up a few screenshots here, just that because people could listen to us, and we have our haters. We have our haters. Oh, you're deluded. You're making all this up. It's crazy. We're only going by facts. I'm only presenting facts here today. Freedom of information request, what the Taoiseach, the Minister of Justice, the Taoiseach have said, what a Garda senior member has said. We're using their words and the testimonies of the people that live in the areas, okay? So another thing that has came out, and I'm trying to give people an update because this whole thing is insane. When you think this is just one centre, let alone what happened in Drogheda with another centre that was allegedly torched by the mythical far right. Turned out to be it was linked into a crime lord there, and the government had a contract for 10 million quid that they ended up having to sever because there was no fire safety regulations on it. It's a racket. It's a racket. But lastly, before I get to your chats with some of the Sagard residents recently, mystery of the security contract at Citywest. This is literally just published about 10 minutes before I came on with you here this afternoon. An 11.5 million euro contract apparently never went out to tender for provision of security in Citywest. It's the site of the Asylum Transit Hub. It had been a concern even before what happened in October after the alleged assault of the child. That was the latest in a long series of events, which included more than 1,000 logged incidents, which we've discussed, and also an alleged assault on Camilla Gray, the owner of the Lemongrass restaurant. It seems to be, Philip, and I'm not going to bring any more screenshots up here, but it seems to be, you can try and suppress stuff that goes on there. You can try and keep it on the down low. You can try and keep it under wraps. But because of the size of it and the scale of it and the thousands of incidents, thousands that have been going on over time, and the millions, hundreds of millions that are being spent on this place, there's only so much covering up you can do.
Yeah, and I think it's this kind of philosophy is going on in their own heads. When I say their own heads, the establishment, the regime, they have such a huge media complex behind them. They have an NGO complex behind them, and they're used to disarm people. They're used to make people think that this is a small thing, this is trivial. They're used to hide stories and omit information that needs to be put out in the public. That's why it's really important that we keep doing what we're doing, because we are getting the message out there. And it beggars belief. You mentioned the SDU people there. I'm sure they have files on the likes of me, the likes of you, who are producing content, who are trying to do honest reporting of what's happening to their country. This is how bizarre it is. This is where we're at. Like years ago, 20 years ago, whatever, they tapped phones of a journalist and it brought down a government. Now they're putting out criminal files against people who are just simply commentating and reporting. Yeah. So it's gone to that level, and I suppose places like Citywest make it impossible for them to hide what's going on. And as you say, it's going on in practically every DP centre consistently through the country. There's excess crime coming out of these places, whether the government like it or not. And the more I've noticed, I was recently live streaming in Dublin City at a Tuzla event there, and I have noticed there was nearly as many live streamers there now reporting as there was protesters, which is a great thing to see. There's a lot more people out there now trying to put the information out, which is great. I mean, it was one of the things that I wanted to happen when I started, that other people would start doing it. And it's a joy to behold, to see these people doing it and not being afraid. We should not be afraid. And this is what it is as well. It's this complex industrial media complex and NGO complex. It's designed to put people in fear of speaking out. And this wonderful lady, I'm going to put this interview up today, is like, you'll see it not before this comes up, but it's her courage and her bravery, and more and more people like her. They want to suppress people who are victims of this, let's say, migration crime, migrant crime, or whatever, they don't want anybody speaking about that, especially the victims, the children that were stabbed in Parnell Street. Where are their families? You know, nobody's heard them speak out. I am taking it that they have been intimidated into not speaking out. So, and it's going on all over the country. We hear more reports of people like that who are victims, and they're told straight away by the police, don't go public with this, don't go on social media with this, you might jeopardize the case, you might do this, you might be accused of racism or whatever, just don't do it. So that kind of stuff, that all has to stop. We have to beat that, you know, and we just have to get the honest to goodness hard truths out to people, and not allow ourselves to be intimidated, Rick.
Well said. And to give you your props, people do. The great thing about technology these days is you don't need to invest in a lot of kit. A mobile phone with a camera and a connection to an internet can get you live streaming and broadcasting with the best of them, okay? Yeah. And what's important is that the information is relayed in a way with integrity to the watcher. And that's why when you do the live streams, you know, you can't edit a live stream. You know, if you're pausing it every 10 minutes for half an hour, then you could say something dubious is going on. But you hit start, and unless there's a technical issue, you just stream the whole thing from start to finish, warts and all. So no one can take that away from what you're doing. I think you've inspired a lot of people to do more of it. That's maybe why you're seeing this blossoming too. But you also go back and revisit places, not just when there's some big event happening. So I want to finish off by getting your thoughts on, because you've made a few visits over the last week or so, you've tried to talk to, you've seen you talking to some of the security guys at the gates of Citywest, being very polite, cordial to them, and not aggravating them in any way. Also trying to speak to some of the people that live in the area, getting their thoughts and opinions on it. Just in summary, with a month, 6 weeks having now passed since this all really flared up. And another thing worth noting too is Philip, you know, gets the thin end of the wedge when it comes to getting hands laid on him. Put it like that. I don't mean in a religious way. It's hands laid on him all the time, but it's not for prayers and blessings. It's usually to manhandle him out of an area, or the guards want them to move along, or whack him with a baton. But there were international media people that were there also. The guy Doogie from Sky News or GB News, he was spread up and bashed up and witnessing people being assaulted. You know, international media felt the same way. There was a local guy, I think off the top of my head, 420 audits. He was, you know, smacked out of the way too. He said he was trespassing, he was standing on a footpath. So it's not just you. This is happening to, you know, you're not crying victim and, oh, it's me. No, this is happening to a lot of people. But you went back. Tell me what the word on the street is in and around Sagard Village at this time, when there's no ratting going on or there's no attacks happening that we know of. What's the word on the street right now?
Look, I mean, the vast majority of the people living there and the people who grew up in that area are all against this. They're not forgetting it. There's still going to be more protests. It's still going to be highlighted. I will do everything in my power to highlight what's going on there as well. And these people need support. We all need to support each other. And there's hundreds of towns and villages now around the country that have the same plight. But this one in particular now, we need to all just get together and do whatever we can to help these people. I can't see, a lot of them want the hotel back. Obviously, these governments, you know, they go act like they're going to be around forever. It's very strange. Like, they're supposed to only have a 4 or 5 year tenure, you know, but they happen to always talk about policies that are going to last 20 years, like this hotel being bought. This another gaslighting thing with Jim O'Callaghan, the Minister for Justice. We're buying the hotel for 148 million. In the long run, it's going to save us €1 billion because we're not going to pay out to a contractor or a hotel owner by renting the place, you know, which is bizarre. Now, what will save the money, Jim O'Callaghan, is to shut it down and turn it back into a hotel and stop bringing in these scammers, which most of them are, 80% in his own words, and in Micheál Martin's words, 80% are just chancers looking to economic migrants. And it's, let's shut it down. But the people there, I think, you know, unless we get this government change, unless we get these policies turned around completely, this place is there for the long haul, unfortunately. But we can't give up. We can't give up the fight on it, you know.
Well, well said. And yeah, just crazy to hear you talk like, 80% of them are scammers. And that's your own words, Mehul Martin. That's not what Philip Dwyer thinks of Rick, but that's your own words. And even like I said, the freedom of information, Chris, I have no fear. I'll be honest with you. I don't worry about, like, they can hack my phone if they want, and they can hack my emails if they want. Philip, I say what I feel on air. I don't hold anything back. You live stream live with you in it, saying, this is Philip Dwyer, citizen journalist from Dublin, and I'm here at a certain time. You're not hiding anything. Now, who knows? There could be people out there, very unscrupulous people. There's a lot of dodgy people out there, I believe, sowing seeds of division among certain movements. But all I ever do is comment on it. I'm not part of a group. I'm not part of any political party. I have no intention of being one. I try and comment it, what I can, do what I can with what I have on my own. You're doing the same thing. So, let them open a file on us. Let them investigate us. They're not going to find, well, I can't speak for you, but they ain't going to find anything particularly interesting with me. I'm a pretty boring guy.
I'm not worried either, Rick. And, it's really important to remind people as well that at no point ever, since I've started doing my broadcasts and my journalism, and neither have you, I've never heard you condone any illegal activity whatsoever, any violence whatsoever. We don't condone that at all. We are here doing what we're doing peacefully in a democratic, hopefully a democratic society where you're supposed to have freedom of speech and freedom of expression and freedom of the press. We are just getting ridicule for it, but we don't condone. I've stood for elections. I've involved myself in the democratic process, and at no point do you or I ever condone violence or illegal activity. And I stress it many a time during my live streams. But we are treated like criminals and literally terrorists when we have an issue. Our issue now with terrorism in Ireland is jihadis. We're bringing in people who are from the Islamic faith, and there are a lot of extremists. Now, it's my opinion, Islam is an extreme ideology anyway, but it's like we are bringing in people that we haven't a clue about. And as we've seen before, you've broadcasted and shown clips of me in the city centre at an event where there are armed guards who are obviously there because of a jihadi threat.
At the March for Jesus?
Yes, and there's for Jesus, and there's bollards all over the main streets in Dublin to stop vans driving down, that possibly may plough people out of it, like has happened in Christmas markets and places like Nice in France, appalling jihadi crimes. So that's the problem we have in Ireland. And that also is being created by this gaslighting regime, these gaslighting politicians. And that's politicians on both sides, I might add. I don't want to leave anyone out there, So it's galling.
Well, if nothing else, listen, you've left a trail online. They say once you upload something online, it's in the internet forever. So even if your accounts get scrubbed, somebody will have screenshotted something and it'll be uploaded somewhere else. And I'm doing the same thing, Philip. And as I say to you before, when I record these clips, none of them are edited. I hit start. We talk, I hit stop, I hit upload. You're the same. I can't see that unless you pulled something out of a long live stream to say, this is me talking with Mrs. Jones, or this is me talking with the mayor of, wherever, Clondalkin or whatever. It's what you see is what you get. So it's a scrapbook that's out there. There's comment section under your uploads on your YouTube, on your X account, on this as well. People can say what they want, good, bad, and ugly. It's there. So no matter what happens, I'll stand over my body of work, and I'm pretty sure that you will do the same thing. And listen, we're not perfect. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. You are not the most professional, well-versed, knowledgeable people in the world. But then again, we don't say that we are. We're just documenting what's happening and putting it out there for public consumption to take it or leave it. That doesn't make us bad people, does it?
Yeah, we're only doing what we're doing, Rick, because the so-called journalists that went to their indoctrination camp colleges aren't doing what they're supposed to do. They have now become political activists. They are no longer journalists. I don't want to be here. I don't want to have to go up to City West and investigate a crime of an alleged rape of a 10-year-old child by an individual who was meant to be deported. We don't want to be doing this. We're only here because the system has abandoned journalism and informing the people of what's really going on, truthfully, what's going on.
Amen. Amen. So I wanted to get you on just to give an on-the-ground update of what's happening in Citywest, because I don't want that to be blown over either. This is a travesty that's going on there, made worse by the fact that the government were gaslighting about it last week and holding this place up as some kind of model that everywhere else should be modeled on. Well, if that's the case, God help whoever is going into those centers. So check the description box underneath this video. There'll be a link through there to Philip's YouTube channel and also his Twitter X page. But keep an eye out for it. Particularly, please check the box. He will have uploaded a video to do with that Citywest shenanigans and skullduggery that's been ongoing there. I'll say no more about it than that, but check the description box under this video. So Philip, big thanks to you. As always, nice to see you and talk with you again. That's Philip Dwyer. I'm Rick Munn. This is No Risk, No Reward Media, over and out.